Have you ever had a word that you just did not understand? You're reading through a paper and you come to one word that you just can't get. You just don't know the meaning, and you don't have your phone, you don't have a dictionary, and nobody around you knows the answer. Well, what do? There's plenty of options to figure it out, but we're going to talk about one. So, we're talking about context clues. So, context clues are hints that the author gives to help figure out the meaning of a word that you don't get, you don't understand. So, there's a couple things you're going to look for when you are using context clues to find out the meaning of a word. So, you need to look at the words surrounding the word you don't understand. And then you need to look at the sentences surrounding the word you don't understand. This helps because oftentimes the hints that the author's giving are in those surrounding words, the words within the sentence or in the sentence before or after. So you need to make sure that you go back and you analyze those words. Because oftentimes when we're reading, we don't pick up on a context clue until we get to the word that we don't understand. And so we got to go back, reread, and try to figure it out. Make sure you understand the words before and after, and that's going to help you understand the word that you don't get. So there's a few different types of context clues, but we're going to talk about two. So the first one is synonym context clues. So a synonym is a word that means the same thing as another word. So an example of a synonym could be angry and mad. They're the same word, they mean the same thing, they just are different words. So, and then there's an anonym context clue. An anonym is a word that means the opposite of another word. So, an example of an anonym could be happy and sad. Two completely opposite meanings, different emotions. So, now, an example of an anonym context clue. It could be, I despise liver, but I love steak. So the word we're trying to figure out is despise. So, if we go back and reread, I despise liver, but I love steak. We know that this word right here, but, this can mean that we're contradicting or going against what the second part of the sentence says. So the first part, I despise liver, but the second part is I love steak. Well, we know that love means really, really like. So if we know that he really, really likes steak, but he despises liver, but that's the word we're looking at, because that's the word that's going to make it so it contradicts. It goes against that he really loves steak. So the opposite of really love or really like is doesn't like. So we can come up with the definition that despise means really dislikes. He does not like liver, but he likes steak. So that's an example of an anonym, because despise and love have completely opposite meanings. So an example of a synonym context clue is the water was frigid. I was so cold. The water was frigid. We're trying to figure out the word frigid. So if we're looking, there's two parts of this sentence, right? The water was frigid is the first part. The second part, I was so cold. Well, why is he cold? What's making him cold? Obviously, it's the water, because they're connected in the sentence. So, if he's cold, could that mean the water's warm? No. The water's quick, deep? None of those have anything to do with him being cold. So, if we know that him being cold has to be connected to the word frigid and the water. What could that mean? Well, we can come to the conclusion that the word frigid means cold. Frigid means cold because the water is what's making him cold. So quick water is not going to make him cold, and warm water is not going to make him cold. But cold water is going to make him cold. So now that we understand what a context clue is and what to look for when you're trying to use a context clue, we are going to look at the first paragraph of Damon and Pythias. In Syracuse, there was a ruler so harsh that the people plotted to drive him out of the city. The plot was discovered, and the king commanded that the leaders be put to death. One of the leaders, whose name was Damon, lived at some distance from Syracuse. He asked that before he was put to death, he be allowed to go home and say goodbye to his family. He promised he would come back to die at the appointed time. So I picked out 2 words in this paragraph that are tough. So the first word is plotted. In Syracuse, there was a ruler so harsh that the people plotted to drive him out of the city. So, the ruler was so harsh. Well, we know that the word harsh means rough. He was tough, and he was hard on his people. So, if he was hard on his people, and they want to drive him out of the city, they don't want him there. But they can't just go announce to the king that they don't want him there, right? So if they're plotting, what are they doing? Well, the people don't want him in the city. They can't announce it. It has to stay a secret. What do you do when you're trying to keep something a secret from someone? You have to plan for it, right? You have to get all the people together and plan it. And so if they want to get him out of the city, they have to plan to drive him out. So we can come to the conclusion that plotted means plan or to organize something. Because if you are planning, you're plotting to drive him out. You have to get everyone together so you're all on the same page. You all know what's going on, which is making a plan. So the second word, commanded. The plot was discovered, or the plan was discovered, and the king commanded that the leaders be put to death. So, the plan was discovered, and the king commanded that the leaders be put to death. Well, in this sentence, we know that the king is the ruler. He has say over all things, and whatever he says, people have to do, right? So he's commanding that they be put to death. So he's giving an order. He's telling people what to do because he needs them to complete the act, right? So, commanded, we can come to the conclusion that it means to tell or give instruction, right? He's not asking them, he's commanding, telling them, making sure that people do what he says. So there's a couple examples of a context clue. Throughout this paragraph, or this passage, there's a few more words that are hard, but there's ways to figure it out. So I'm going to give you some time to go over it, find the words that you don't know, and then try using context clues to figure out the words. You can work in small groups together, but you guys just need to bounce ideas off each other. Ask each other, what do you think this means? What do you think this means? But look at the words surrounding it and the sentences surrounding it. And I will come around and check everyone's work. Okay.